You're listening to the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, Ben Eagle. To listen to previous episodes, visit thinkingcountry.com or find the podcast on iTunes by searching for Meet the Farmers. Hello everyone and welcome to the show. This is episode 39 of Meet the Farmers. For today's episode, I travel down to Kent and my guest is Katie Anderson, aka Female Farmer UK, who is a first generation farmer who started out on a path towards a teaching career before finding her passion for farming. In 2016, she opened an educational smallholding, Muddy Boots Farm, located in East Essex. Then she relocated to Kent in the summer of last year, where she now works as an assistant farm manager on a rare breed grass-fed beef farm in Dover. She has also just opened Paddlesworth Produce, where she makes and sells the Kent breakfast box with her own bacon, sausages, jam and eggs, which she produces with her free-range hens and pigs on her rented smallholding just outside of Folkestone. I also want to thank the Mercer Charitable Foundation, who are supporting this episode. So without further ado, let's head over to Kent and Katie. Katie, it's really, really good to be here.
Thanks for coming down. Welcome to Paddlesworth. So we're in an area of natural beauty, which I'm very proud of because it's beautiful here.
Really is.
And we're just on the North Downs, so it's lovely. And where my small holding is, that's just up the road, also on the North Downs, and just by the White Cliffs of Dover as well. Where I had my sheep in Essex, it was lovely flat marshland. So you'd walk around a 22-acre field, that wouldn't be too bad. Here you walk around a 4-acre field and it's up a cliff and you're just exhausted by the time you get to the top.
So you've only been in Kent for about a year or so.
Yep, that's right.
Let's go back to the beginning. How did you first get inspired about farming and why did you want to go into farming in the first place, given that you're not from a farming background?
Yeah, so I'm not at all, there's no one in my family that's in farming. The closest I've come, my great nan was in the Land Army in World War II. That is the closest, and she wasn't from a farming family, she just got roped in. And no one in my family can get their head around why the fact that I want to be in farming. They all work in offices and work in London and things like that, so it's completely out of the blue. But I love the outside, I love animals, I've always loved animals my whole life. I was going to be a vet, but I didn't want to train for 7 years, so that dream quickly faded away. The long and short of it is I went to uni to train to be a teacher, so I did an early years education degree, and during my degree I worked part-time on an arable farm, but it was just in their office, it was just doing their paperwork. They had like holiday lets and things, and I used to manage their events and manage their marketing, and they had a couple of pet pigs and pet goats, looked after them when they're on holiday, and loved it. And then one of my friends bought me this trip to Wales where you got to stay on a farm and you got to help with the farm work and you learn a little bit about farming, and absolutely loved it. And then I know a lot of farmers will frown upon this, but I got obsessed by Country Farm, and every time it was on I'd like fast forward to Adam Henson's section and be like, oh, what's going on the farm? And yeah, that was it. I was just absolutely hooked. And I also did, as part of my degree, I chose to focus on outdoor education. So I worked for the Essex Wildlife Trust on one of their nature reserve farms. So although I was teaching nature-based education, I was still doing it on a farm and doing a bit of...
Not Lab at all?
No, it was Blue House Farm.
Oh, Blue House Farm?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So they're mainly barn owl preservation, but they also have sheep and cattle and all sorts on there. So they do a lot of conservation work. So yeah, that also furthered my interest. And then I had this idea about having this small holding and wanting to keep my own animals. And it wasn't until I went on a small holding course, which was just 2 days in Wales again, and you just learnt about all the basics of small holding, so like tagging and movement licenses. And she did a bit of the course was on how to make money from your small holding, so how to sell your produce. And suddenly, it was like a light bulb moment. I thought, oh my God, I don't need to do this as a hobby.
Yeah.
It can be a business. So that was when Muddy Boots Farm was born. Yeah. And I decided to rent some land, sell my produce and educate children about farming at the same time.
So you're still in Essex. Tell me about Muddy Boots Farm.
So Muddy Boots Farm was me combining my teaching degree with wanting to farm and wanting to have a small holding. I spent all of the 3 years at uni trying to find land to have this small holding on, which, you know, your land is crazy money to buy.
Yep.
It hardly ever comes up, and if it comes up and it's a small amount, someone buys it because they want to build a house on it and pay stupid money, or it's 1,000 acres that I could never afford or look after. So eventually my boss that owned the arable farm said he had about 1 or 2 acres, just he'd never used it for anything. It was awkward to get a tractor on and off. I could rent it and do my thing there. So that's where Muddy Boots Farm was born. And it was a piece of wasteland, and I converted it into 3 pens. So there was a pig pen, there was a goat pen and a sheep pen, and then we had a little poultry on the side. And it was an old World War II cinema, which I converted into a classroom. And children came down for sessions that involved farming, but it was really hands-on. So it was you get in the pig pen and you feed those pigs, you groom the goats, you clean out the goat house. They were doing everything that I would do normally, but just child version. So I didn't want it to be one of these petting zoos where you just stand behind a fence, throw some feed across, go home, that's it. I wanted these kids to think maybe one day I could be a farmer. So that was the basis behind it. It was trying to get kids interested in where their food comes from, but also interested in like agricultural careers.
Was there much red tape to climb through to set that up?
Yeah. There was loads. And I would say to anyone that wants to offer those sort of things, it's not going to be easy. It's not one of those things you think, oh, I'm going to make loads of money, and it's going to be really simple. I'll just put kids in a pen, because you can imagine like the health and safety aspect of it. Yeah. There's all the permissions from the parents that you need to get, all the risk assessments. I had to get my first aid qualification. I had to get a food safety qualification. All these different, your DBS checks as well.
Yeah.
All these different things. So it was really difficult to get in place. But part of my last section of my degree was making a plan for your next steps. So I used that time where I was a student to plan those next steps. So like my first aid certificate I got done while I was doing my dissertation. I tried to get as much done before I was ready to go into it.
Yeah.
So that helped.
And you're currently an assistant farm manager on a farm producing grass-fed beef.
That's right. So I came down to Kent to live with my boyfriend just outside Folkestone, and I work on a beef cattle farm. They've got Shetland cattle, which are crazy. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend them to anyone because they've got horns, they're independent, they are stubborn, and they pretty much make my life hell every day. So don't get them. Get Dexter's, for goodness sake.
That's a great ad for the society.
Yeah. No, they are lovely. But no, to me, when I had my sheep, all I said was I'm not getting anything with horns, mainly because of the children. I didn't want them. But also they get stuck in fences and things. And now I would stand by that 100%, because horned animals are just, it's a whole new level of danger. When they weigh a ton as well, and you're trying to get them into a crush or into a trailer or something. Yeah. So it's been really eye-opening, because I've never worked with cattle before. I've never had any interest in cattle either. The job I got through Twitter.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah. How did you get the job?
I came down to Kent, or I was about to come down to Kent. I had about 2 months before I was going to move down here, and I posted on Twitter saying, look, I've got experience in sheep, pigs, poultry. I'm just really looking for a job in farming. I'll do anything. I don't mind. It can be part-time, full-time, just anyone. Can you help me out? And for about a week, I had hundreds of retweets and shares and everything, but nothing really came of it, because a lot of farming jobs aren't around here. It's sort of Midlands and North England. Yeah,
especially with livestock.
Yeah, especially with livestock. I could have got loads of jobs picking fruit around in Kent. Obviously, there's hundreds of apples and things going on here, but I really wanted to be with livestock. That was where my passion was. And then suddenly I got this message saying, we might be thinking of selling our beef to the public. Would you be interested in giving us a hand and sort of helping out on that side of it? And I was like, yeah, 100%. So that day I drove down to Kent, met the farmer, and he took me around all these different fields, and I said, look, I've got no experience with cattle at all. I'm pretty scared of cows, actually. I want to be honest with you. And he was like, don't worry, I'll help you, I'll train you up. And that was that. I've been there a year now. So.
And then on top of that, you very recently launched Paddlesworth Produce, and
Yes.
you're producing a breakfast box.
Yeah.
With bacon, sausages, jam, eggs. How are you selling that and who to? And tell me about how Paddlesworth began.
So Paddlesworth Produce, originally I started, I thought I wanted to start my own business and what animals would be low cost to set up and sell, because it's all self-funded, and pigs don't need a lot of infrastructure, they're low cost to buy, and you can sell their meat really easy because everyone loves sausages and bacon. Everyone loves eggs, they're really low cost to buy. So there wasn't a risk there. So I thought, right, I'll stick with that. And then in my head, I thought, right, sausage, bacon, eggs, that's a breakfast. I also make jam. There we go. Get a loaf of bread in because I can't bake. So there's a local baker who makes my bread.
Great.
And I came up with this breakfast box. And it was just going to be, it was November I came up with the idea last year. And it was just going to be, I'll sell these breakfast boxes at farmers markets and it'll be my own produce and it'll be a way of getting rid of my own produce. And really quickly it evolved. So I started to write my business plan, and I got my business plan through the Prince's Trust, which do a lot of free business advice for young people. And I sat down, did my business plan, and I thought, realistically, what do people want nowadays? They want to shop online and they want stuff delivered to their home because we're lazy. I'm lazy. That's what I want. I love going to a farmer's market, but I do it as a one-off. I don't think I'm going to go there every week. So yeah, I did this box, and then really quickly people were approaching me and I was finding other people that sold extras. So there's like a local apple farm that does apple juice for me. There's a local dairy farmer that does milk and butter for me. And then it became this breakfast box idea, launched it in April, and it's just gone crazy, really crazy, which is fantastic.
Right. Yeah.
And then this last month, I also launched the Kent barbecue box, where I work with a local sheep farmer and my beef farmer that I work for, and they supply the beef burgers and lamb chops and things for the barbecue. So it's become this kind of like hub where local producers and local farmers sell me their products, and then I make them into something that people want.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really taken off. It's great.
So last week I was volunteering at the Suffolk show, and we were taking part in something called Farming Live, which was a brand new ring at the show, and we were supported by a team of brilliant apprentices and placement students from class who were driving all the machinery.
Wow.
And we were talking about apprenticeships especially, but general opportunities of getting into agriculture, which is incredibly diverse, and there are lots of different areas that you can go into.
Yeah.
But perhaps something we weren't talking about was starting your own business as a we were talking before we started recording about who is a farmer and that label of what a farmer is.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say sort of mud on boots farmers.
Yeah.
To get started in that sort of way, as you were saying earlier, can be really, really tough. So from your perspective, is it particularly difficult to start in ag on that basis?
I think starting any business is tricky, especially as a young person, because people start a business, you do need to have some funding, and you do need to have knowledge, and then people see a young person that's perhaps not got a lot of money, perhaps not got a lot of experience or knowledge, and they don't maybe want to work with you. So it is really tough. But feedback I always get from my business or from when I entered farming was, oh, you've got the passion, and you just really need to have that passion and drive. But it is tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Running your own business is tough in any industry. But you need to show that enthusiasm. Before I got into farming, I did a lot of work for free, and I had a job, and as soon as I finished my job, I did a lot of lambing help this year for free because I didn't want to lose touch with, I've not got any sheep anymore, but I didn't want to lose touch with the industry. I think a lot of people sort of shirk away from working for free, but if you have that end goal and you know you need to get experience to get to that end goal, then it's totally worth it. So after work, I'd go and help out local farmers. I joined a small holding group, and they'd sort of teach me. One year I gutted and plucked 50 turkeys, for a smallholder, and that was all from my experience. I didn't get paid for it. But if you can get paid opportunities, then obviously do. But yeah, free help and being part of your local farming community can really help you and your business.
Now I want to talk about blogging and social media. Where did the idea for Female Farmer UK come from?
So Female Farmer UK was started, oh my goodness, probably 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I'm really inspired by other people. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot of blogs, watch a lot of country farm, I used to anyway. And watching other people's stories really inspires me, because I always think, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are like that. And what I was kind of disappointed with was I wasn't hearing from a lot of female farmers, and it kind of made me doubt the fact that I could farm. Also, especially, I didn't know a single person that had gone into farming that wasn't from a farming family, and that really put doubt in my mind. And actually, up to the point of going on that smallholding course in Wales and meeting a female farmer that wasn't from farming background, I thought I couldn't do it. I just completely disregarded it as a profession. I was like, no, you have to be born into farming. How would you just start a farm? You can't do that. So once I knew that was possible, I wanted other people to realise it was possible, because I know there'll be a lot of girls, doing their GCSEs, age 16, thinking, I would love that career, but I can't because I'm not born into it, or I haven't gone to agricultural college or whatever. So I started the blog, firstly as a point to be like, look, you can do it. I've done it. Here's my day-to-day. It's kind of evolved over the years. I do a lot of how-to blog posts and how-to video posts for people trying to get into farming, and I have a lot of opinions as well that I share on Twitter, and I'm really honest as well, which I think is really important, because this, especially, we were talking about Instagram earlier. A lot of farming Instagram accounts are pretty pictures of a field, pretty pictures of a sheep, here's me in my nice new wellies. I'm not like that. I will do a pretty picture of the field, but the next day I'll be a picture of me in the pouring rain going, oh, this is rubbish. And I think that's really important as well.
Lots of days like that.
There are loads. And we did Farm 24 last year, which is 24 hours of farming on Twitter mainly. It's on all social media accounts. And the whole day it rained in Kent. And I wasn't going to be I'm not joining in. I was just stood there in my rain mat this is really rubbish, it's raining, I'm with the cows, but I still love my job. So I think it's really important not to sort of sugarcoat it, not to sell something that isn't realistic, because if you're going to go into farming, you need to have grit. You need to be able to put up with all weathers, all situations, being let down, animals just dying, they do. There's loads of things that can... And we talk about this all the time in farming social media, but mental health in farming, it can be a lonely place. So I'm really honest about that, and I think that's really important.
And in 2017, you were selected as a finalist at the British Farming Awards for Digital Innovator of the Year.
Yes.
So clearly you were doing something right. Now, does this show, and this links into a question, blogging and bloggers and farm bloggers in particular have sort of carved a little niche, and we've got our own little community going on. And I'm including that right the way through from blogs to podcasts, and there are some great vloggers out there as well. Sometimes referred to as citizen journalism, which is not a term that I really like, but that's sometimes how it's referred to. Is it becoming more mainstream, would you say, sort of farm blogging and people engaging with what's going on farms through bloggers, as opposed to, or as well as, things like Country Farm, BBC Farming Today, or conventional media?
I think in all industries, people are becoming more reliant on bloggers and influencers, or whatever they're called, in general.
I guess you're technically an influencer.
Exactly. But I wouldn't... See, even when you call me a blogger, I think, I always say I'm not a blogger. I just write a few posts, But it is becoming more mainstream all across the board, and people are becoming more trusting. They'd rather hear from you, what's your advice, or what brands do you like to use. They like to see a person. So I think generally it's becoming more mainstream. But in farming in particular, I'm so proud of the industry, because the Digital Innovator category of the British Farming Awards, that's really new, because we didn't have... Years gone by, we didn't have farmers even... they weren't even interested in digital era. And still now, there's loads of farmers out there that won't have a Facebook account, or they won't use a smartphone or whatever. There's going to be that, but it's increasing, and it's fantastic, because farming in its nature is an isolated, you're in rural areas, you've not got that direct contact, and a lot of farmers aren't selling direct at farmers markets anymore. They're not doing bot schemes and stuff. And then you lose that connection with the public. And then we say, oh, the public don't know where their food comes from. Well, yeah, but we're not telling them where their food comes from. And this, I'm really excited about, is because we're doing it now all over social media. Twitter community in particular, for me, is fantastic. And podcasters, vloggers, bloggers in farming are just increased. Every month you see a new one pop up. So it's really, really good.
On the flip side, are there any negative sides of social media from a farming perspective?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. There is the small minority of the vegan community that will go out of their way to make your life hell. And I, touch wood, haven't had it that bad, but I know some, particularly dairy industry, have had it really, really bad. And vegans will go out of their way to harass them on social media and find them on all their different accounts. It's awful. I've had it in person in my farm in Essex. I've had a particular person from the vegan community come up to me, and she was harassing me, and in the end I had to say, I'm going to get the police involved. But with social media, there's not those rules, and people don't realise they're dealing with an individual, a person, a mum, a sister, a daughter, whatever. And I just think it's horrendous the amount of abuse that you can get on there. So yeah, you have to be really thick-skinned. And if you're not thick-skinned, you have to have private accounts, because you are going to get harassed. So there is that to it. But for me, the positive far, far outweighs the negative. So it's totally worthwhile for me.
You were invited to Barclays' annual lunch of their 400 Women of the Year.
Oh my
gosh. That was last year.
Yeah.
How did that happen, and what was that like?
It was so surreal. So it was, Women of the Year in London. 400 people from the whole country get invited to this fantastic lunch. It's out of this world. Like, the dessert was like a little apple carved out of white chocolate. There were speakers there. I'm going to embarrass myself now and not know any of the names of the speakers, but they were really inspirational women. There were celebrity. Every table sort of had a celebrity as well. Like Fern Cotton was there, and there were so many women there. Yeah. And there was me, like a farmer. I don't know. They basically had you either had to have helped women, be inspirational to women, or be in a career where women weren't the majority. So I was sat next to...
I would say you tick all those boxes.
I wouldn't, honestly. I was sat next to a woman that played in the Women England's rugby team as well. So that's kind of an idea of some of the women on the table. And she was exactly like me. She had complete imposter syndrome. We were both like, oh my God, what's going on? And yeah, we invited to this lunch. There was some fantastic talks. There were like awards on the day as well. And honestly, I was sat on the tube on the way home, and they give you this huge goodie bag of all different bits, and it has on it like Women of the Year event. I sat there thinking, what is going on? Like, because I walked out this red carpet, and I was like on the tube, like on the Northern Line, like, oh God, I've got to go back to the farm now. And some woman came up, she did the cardinal sin of talking to a stranger on the tube, and I was like, it's fine, yeah. But she pointed out my bag, and she was like, did you go to that? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, was this person here? I was like, yeah. And I was like, was this person here? I was like, yeah. She was like, it's all over Instagram, like all these celebrities. And she was like, did you meet Esther Ranson? I was like, no, but she was on the table next to me. And I was like, this is so weird. But yeah, it was one of those pinch me moments, and also complete, I don't know why I was invited. I really don't. Well,
do you think the fact that you were there, which is a great thing, do you think that's one small sign that things are improving for women in ag?
Yeah, I do. I think, well, in some ways yes, in some ways no. The fact that I had to be invited simply because I was a woman in agriculture, I think there's loads of women in agriculture. Like, it shouldn't be a special thing, because there are tons. But also it was a good opportunity to go in there and say, women are in agriculture, we should be celebrated. But I think from an outside point of view as well, a lot of people think there are less women in farming than there are. And a lot of women farmers wouldn't class themselves as farmers. And we were talking before about like the label of farmer, what is a farmer? So yeah, I was really pleased to be invited, but I don't think there was a need for it.
Yeah. I think I was watching last night actually a little video on Twitter of Minette Batters.
Yes.
I think, I don't know whether you saw it as well. And,
I shared that.
And the interviewer was asking her, she came out and and that said, someone came up for a delivery, that was it.
Yeah, and said, where's the farmer?
And they said, where's the farmer? And it said, I am the farmer. And it said, well, where's the boss? And said, I am the boss.
Yeah.
And that says everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when I say to people now, oh, I'm a farmer, they're like, well, what do you actually do? Especially when I say I work with cattle, because that primarily is a male-orientated sort of career. And they're like, what do you actually do? You must just take orders or go to farmers markets. And I do those things. But I'm also in the pen with the cattle, loading them for the abattoir or picking up calves and tagging them and stuff like that. So it's this misconception really of what women do in farming, because I think most people know women work in farming, but they perhaps think they do all the nice little jobs, and we don't. We do everything.
Yeah. But it's really interesting, isn't it, how actually, again, no matter what area of ag you work in, or there's still this association that it's the mud on boots bit that is the big tick in the box.
Yeah.
That is the good bit.
Yeah.
But actually, like you were saying earlier, when you're running a business, you have to be everything.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to have lots of different hats at any one time. And the bits when you are in front of your laptop at 2 a.m. typing into a spreadsheet, that is just as important as when you're out in the field as well. You need everything.
I'm so glad you said that, because I really struggle, especially I feel like I have to justify myself all the time that I'm a farmer, and especially now I've started Paddlesworth Produce, because that is a lot. It's 90% off the farm, because it's all the marketing, all the promotion, all the orders, all the website, blah blah blah. And it worries me in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, am I still a farmer? Am I still a farmer? And it sounds ridiculous, because I know I am. I'm out there farming. Even if I wasn't out there every day farming, I'm still farming. And I'm glad you said that, because it's, even in my own mind, I feel like I have to justify that I'm a farmer by going and getting my boots muddy and going and sheep wrangling or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. And I think, going around about the place, so many people say that to me.
Yeah.
It's like, sort of, come on guys, let's actually, what is this obsession with this farmer label? Whereas actually, especially where the industry is going, and before we started recording, we talked about just the elements of business and the way that markets are changing and responding to markets. You've recognised around here locally there is a market for a certain thing, therefore you're following that, and that's where your business is growing. Despite this label and this idea of what a farmer should be, actually in some ways we've got to follow the business. We've got to actually, if something isn't working, then change it.
Yeah, and
move to where it is going to work.
So the industry generally has this thing of being stuck in the mud. You stick to what you've done for 100 years or whatever. You don't want to change. But we've got to, if you want to have a profitable business, there is no point in sticking to what you've done for years if it's not working now. You've got to be flexible and adaptable. And people are changing, their shopping habits are changing. We need to pick up on that. So, and like we said before, we need to educate them on why it's important to support farmers and why it's important to buy our produce. So.
Right, we're going to try the 1 minute soapbox.
Oh no!
Now. It's 1 minute soapbox time. So, listeners, this gives guests an opportunity to speak on a subject of their choice for 1 minute. I put 1 minute on the clock. Katie, do you have a subject that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a whole minute, but I can talk for quite a long time. So
okay, I'm going to start the clock.
Okay.
Introduce your subject and talk on it for 1 minute, starting now.
Okay, I really want to talk about why it's important that we buy British produce and local produce. It's what my business, Paddlesworth Produce, is based on. And I think people forget. So firstly, there's the initial environmental aspect of buying locally and buying British. We've not got that carbon footprint. We've not got the worry of shipping meat, eggs, whatever you're trying to buy across countries. It's all available in Britain. Eat seasonally and you can have the best diet. And also there's the welfare aspect. We have extremely high animal welfare standards in the UK, and if you're buying British produce, you know that the farmer you're buying them off of has had to adhere to those standards. So that's really important. Then lastly, there's the financial element of buying local and buying British. If you are putting money into the local economy, then your local area will improve. You're supplying local people with jobs. I just can't see any bad side to buying locally. Is that my time up already?
That's your time. That's 1 minute. But that was good.
No.
You got loads. You got loads in there.
Buy local, buy British. That's what I wanted to cover.
That's brilliant. Obviously, you've got loads going on at the moment, but what are your future plans? What would you like to, if there's one thing that you would like to achieve, anything at all in the next few years, what would it be and why?
So my business, Paddlesworth Produce, at the moment there's a handful of local farmers and local producers that I use, and I really like to broaden that aspect and support more farmers and more business people and see more farmers thinking about selling direct to customers and promoting the local produce message. That's quite a big ask, I realise.
That's great. And how do people follow you on social media or your blog?
So my blog is www.femalefarmeruk.com, and all my social media handles, that's Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, are at femalefarmeruk.
Well, Katie, it's been great to have a whistle-stop tour down to Kent.
Thank you for coming.
I'm about to head north again.
Yeah.
But yeah, wish you the absolute best for
Thank
all of
you.
your projects.
Thank you very much.
It's really exciting. I'll be interested to see where you go from here.
Thank you.
Kent-based farmer and farming blogger Katie Anderson. A reminder that you can follow her on social media at Female Farmer UK or visit her blog, which can be found at femalefarmeruk.com. Next time, I'm heading to the Midlands to speak to Staffordshire farmer and a former candidate for Vice President of the NFU, Richard Bauer. If you're feeling generous, please do leave the podcast review on whatever platform you're listening on, and a quick shout out to the Mercer Charitable Foundation who supported the production of this episode, to Tom Bland, who very kindly volunteers his time and expertise in making my editing attempts sound somewhat like a programme, and to eatfarmnow.com, where you can find a whole heap of incredible online content to do with food and farming. For now though, I'll say goodbye, and I'll look forward to you joining me next time on Meet the Farmers.